Hello, I'm Sarahbyoga and welcome to this yoga class where we're going to be doing 4 seated poses, 3 standing poses, and then transition to a different type of yoga. We'll do 2 yin poses, and then I'm going to guide you through a little bit of pranayama in Shavasana and then leave you in Shavasana proper so that you can marinate in all the work that you have done. So I want you to start seated. You're going to need a block and a blanket. The blanket is going to be used now as a little prop underneath your bottom. Fold it, make sure that you're sitting on the front folded bit. And the first pose is Bada Konasana, so wide-legged forward fold. So lengthen your legs, not to the complete wideness that you can do. Back off a little bit, so about 80% of what you can do. Because we want to start off slowly and carefully. Bring your hands behind you. Push your hands back to move your torso a little bit more forward, and so that you can sit a little bit more forward on your 2 sitting bones. Squeeze your legs pretty strongly here and make sure that your heels are pressing down into the floor, and separate your toes for this one. Now, if this pose is very familiar to you, you can come forward a little bit more. If you've got the flexibility in the backs of your legs and in your lower back, by all means, make sure that you feel your 2 hip points moving forwards, kind of like your pelvis is tipping water forwards and out of it. If you want to, you can bring your hands ahead, but feel free to keep your hands behind you. Firm your abdominal muscles and stay here for 2 or 3 more smooth breaths. Bringing your attention to your breathing is one aspect of yoga that I find very useful. It helps me to focus my mind on what I'm doing right now. So bring that on for yourself. And then on your next inhalation, come up. Before we go to the next pose, you're just going to do a very brief twist. So twist to your right, bring your hands down to the floor. Your left hand on the outside of your right leg. Pick your hands up and turn in the other direction. We're just loosening and lengthening the muscles on the back body here. Looks like Suki is settling in for a sleep. Turn back to center and come into Shasana. So bend the right knee and bring the sole of the foot into the inner left thigh. You can bring it a bit further away if you know this pose well. We're going to do a variation of bending forward in between the knees. So instead of turning towards your straight leg, turn towards your knees, bring your hands behind you, and again, folding forward to whichever extent suits you. So what's your inner chatter telling you what to do, and observe your body directly and feel what is right for you. Again, possibly the hands coming forwards. I like to drag my hands slightly back doing this. It helps me to feel like my spine is lengthening. You can try that too. Make sure your right knee feels heavy. And as you inhale, come up and change sides by lengthening this leg first and bending this leg second. Again, moving forward. If you feel like your bottom is coming off the blanket, move it back a little bit. Hands behind you. Inhale, lengthen your spine and your whole front body. Stay with this as you continue to breathe, or as you exhale, possibly fold forward and bring your hands down. Be aware of how you're placing your body. Keep your focus. Keep this leg straight and strong. Separate your toes. You can even push the base of your big toe, the mound here, forwards a little bit. Bring the toe back. And feel how your body is responding, particularly in the lower back. And try and keep this left knee pressing down into the floor. To come up, push down through your left foot. Inhale, come all the way up. Good. Now, straighten this left leg again. And then the right leg is going to come into Ardha Malasana, so half squat shape. So bring it in. And bring your right arm inside the inner leg here, so that your upper arm is pressing into the inner knee. Then we're going to twist. Bring your left hand behind you, sit tall, and when you're ready, turn. Use this back hand, this left hand, to prop you up. And turn away from that right leg. And as you do this, keep pressing the right leg into the arm and the arm back into the leg so that you get some heat, some strength work going on in that right hip. Move the left shoulder back, lift your heart a little bit more. Then turn back to center, straighten this right leg, bend the left leg. So again, Ardha Malasana, half squat shape. Bring your arm in here, bring your left hand behind you. Malasana actually is a Garland pose. Turn away from that half garland. Lift your heart. Your left sitting bone can slightly lift up away from the floor or from your blanket, but keep it weighing down as much as you can. And again, that strength work, this resistance work is going on with your arm and your leg. Neither are winning, but they're pressing in, joining each other to help strengthen and support the base of your pose, your hips, and keep that right leg nicely engaged as well. Turn back to center. Lengthen the left leg. Now, for half Virasana, Ardha Virasana, I want you to come off your blanket for a moment and fold it a little bit more, because you might need a little bit more proppage with this one. And then bring your knees in and bring the blanket behind you, so a little bit higher, and lengthen both of your legs out straight ahead. And I want you to scooch a little bit over to the right hand side, so that you can then bring your left hand to the floor, bend your right leg, point the toes, and then bring this leg down. Now, you're up on a prop here with both sitting bones. If, again, you know this pose and you think, I don't need the prop, I can sit up pretty well here, my right sitting bone is on the floor easily without the prop, then you can take it away. I'm going to keep mine here. Bring your hands onto the floor beside you, lift your chest. So stretching the thigh here. Now I'm going to give you an option to forward fold. You are going to do lots more thigh stretching in poses to come, but think about again the forward folding. So walk your hands forward, inhale, lift, and as you exhale, possibly come forward a little bit more here. And flatten your hands. Keep your abdominal muscles engaged, keep knitting in the lower ribs, and keep the weight bearing down on this right leg, particularly the right hip. You could even use your right hand to press down into the hip crease. As you inhale, come up. Lean heavily and dramatically over to the left so that you can straighten your right leg safely. And then move a little bit over if your blanket has a wide base. Right hand on the floor, lean over and bend this leg. You want the inner heel to be touching your hip here, and your thighs to be more or less parallel. So don't feel like you've got to have your knees together. So again, you can stay upright here. This is already pretty hard work in the ankle, the knee and the hip. It can be demanding for a lot of people. This is a tough pose. Or possibly come forward a little bit if it feels okay. When you do come forward, if you do come forward, try and lengthen from the base of your heart up to the center of your head, and then even out and through there, so you feel like you're lengthening and stretching your spine. Now press down with that left foot, and as you inhale, come all the way up. Good. Now lean over, straighten this leg. Good. And then from here, bring the soles of your feet together. So coming into Bada Konasana. Stay up on your blanket. You can bring your hands around your ankles and pull up to get a little bit more length in your spine. You can keep your hands on the floor behind you if you prefer, if you feel like you need that little bit more support. And again, you take things even further, you can press your elbows into your inner thighs and possibly come down. Stay here for a couple more breaths. I think actually I've given you 5 seated poses here, but we are going to stick with the 3 standing. These seated poses are preparing you for the standing poses, and the yin poses afterwards are a really nice way to come into a more meditative state, a calmer state, certainly physically more calmer, and also you're going to really stretch your hips out more in those poses. Now squeeze your bottom, inhale and come up. Bring your knees together and come into downward facing dog. I'm just throwing this one in as a little extra because I want you to get a little bit more of an energy flow here, a little bit more heat and strength through downward facing dog. So push down through the bases of your index fingers, squeeze your arms and push your hands forward. Then knit in the lower ribs, squeeze your thighs and push your heels down. Now walk your hands all the way back towards your feet, bending your knees whenever you need to. Then bring your hands onto your hips and come up and get your block. The block is going to help you with the standing poses. Please do have it, even if you're a no block person. Put the block into your right hand. With your feet together, squeeze your legs and stand tall. Now step your feet wide. Then bring your arms up. Stretch your hands away from each other. Then look at your right foot and pivoting on the heel, turn your toes to the short edge of the mat. Squeeze this back leg straight and strong. Look at your right knee and bend it so that you come into Warrior Two with your knee going over the middle toes of that right foot. If you're finding this tough, then you can move the back foot in a little bit closer. If you think that you could take it a little further, then move it back a bit more and lengthen your stance. We're going to be here for about 10 more seconds in this pose, but we are doing everything on the right leg. So from here, gaze towards your block, soften your shoulders. Now, coming into side angle pose, put your block down on the outside of your right heel. Place your hand onto the block with some firmness, with the middle fingers draping over the front. Turn your back palm up. Now pause here for a moment and lean back a little bit more. And make sure that you haven't put the block too close to you, that your knee is turning in. If anything, you might need to move it slightly away. Then bring your left arm overhead. If you can look up and under it, then do. Otherwise, look down. And keep that feeling of moving your right knee over towards the right. Push your back foot down. 3, 2, keep breathing. 1. Now for Trikonasana, triangle pose, straighten your left arm and then straighten your right leg. And you can move the block back a little bit here if you need to. Try not to rest your hand too heavily on the block. Use your abdominal muscles to keep yourself up. And again, you can look down or look up. Keep pushing down through the big toe edge of your front foot and press your shoulders towards your hips and your hips towards your back foot, your left foot. Squeeze your legs. Now coming up to standing, reach up with your top hand. Inhale, bring the block with you. Put the block into your left hand. Turn your feet so the right toes point in, the left toes out. I like to be heel to heel in these poses. There's a more feeling of spaciousness when you do. Bring the block up. Warrior Two, Virasana 2. Again, make your stance. You're going to keep the length of this stance for all of these 3 poses on the left side. So find the length that suits you, knowing now that we're going to be in here for a little while. Keep lengthening the left inner thigh from the inner groin to the inner knee. Squeeze the left buttock in. Side angle pose. Bring your block down again to the outside of the heel. Rest the palm of your hand on the block. Turn your palm up and bring your arm overhead. I'm keeping my block on the highest height. By all means, you can bring it down a level, but make sure you can still turn your belly and chest, that your legs stay strong, the back leg straight, and that your knee is over your ankle here. Couple more breaths. 3, 2, 1. Now straighten the right arm. Trikonasana. Straighten your left leg. Bring your block back a little bit so that you feel it's under your shoulder. And again, turn. You'll feel that the weight distribution in your front foot kind of changes here. So as you lean back and rotate your torso up towards the ceiling, keep pressing down through the inner heel and the base of the big toe. It tends to leak up a little bit in this pose. Squeeze your legs strong and press your legs towards each other as best you can. Inhale, come up. Bring your hands down, parallel your feet, and then step your feet together. Yin poses. So we're going to do two. The first one is going to take on the shape of what's called sleeping swan. So you're going to need your blanket again, put it on the right hand side of your mat, and you may need your block as well. So have them both just in case on the right hand side. Now, from here, a very brief downward facing dog. Tuck your toes under, push back, then bring your right knee behind your right wrist as if you were going to do Ikaraja Kapotanasana. So pigeon prat. Bring your back knee down and then bring your back toenails to the floor. Now bring that back foot a little bit more over to the left. I can't because there's a wall in the way, but you do that. And then I want you to have a prop underneath your bottom here. So if you're up quite high, you can put your block here and the blanket. I don't want you to feel too supported. I want you to feel that there is quite a big stretch going on in your hips. So not too much, just enough for you to feel that for 2 minutes on each side, so it's quite a long hold, you're able to feel some deep work going on, some deep pulling in the fascia, in the connective tissue. And yet you feel safe. Your knee, your ankle, your hip don't feel compromised. You're not in any pain. So from here, you can rest your forehead onto your fists, completely soften your shoulders, and make sure that you feel that your lower back is more or less horizontal. It's not down on one side or the other, that it's supported, and that you feel okay in the hip, the knee, and the ankle. If this doesn't feel okay for you, then you can look at the screen for a moment. I'm going to give you an alternative. You can lie on your back instead and come into Eye of the Needle, Sukhi Randrasana. This leg is doing a very similar thing. Make sure you do it on the right hand side. So stay in your pose as softly as you can. So we've gone through some very strength-based poses, particularly in those standing poses. Now I want you to encourage your body to soften wherever you can. Relax the back leg and that front leg. Relax your toes all the way around your pelvis, up your back, abdominal region. Soften your shoulders, down your arms into your hands. And then you might find that your breathing becomes a little longer and a little deeper. Encourage that to happen if it isn't happening naturally. Breathing in and out through your nostrils at a very steady, even rate. Let this continue for about another minute. There are some parts of your body you do need to keep a little bit engaged. You might feel like you need to press down that right knee a little bit. Your arms are also working somewhat in a relatively yang way, but try and minimize that as much as you can. The softness and the steadiness of your breath is being reflected in the soft, steadfast position of your limbs and your entire body. Now, we're going to come out of this in a moment through downward facing dog and then come to the other side. So lift your head, place your hands well, tuck your back toes under, pick up the entire right leg. And in your downward facing dog, move your blanket over to the left-hand side, and the block too if you're using your block. Stretch back for a little bit longer in your down dog and feel the asymmetry in your legs. Now let's balance that out and come to the left-hand side. So bring the left knee down. Do make sure that you bring it behind the wrist. It's not in the center of your mat, it is over to the left. Bring your back knee down. Maybe move the back leg back a little bit and bring the back toenails down. I like to bring it a little bit more out to the right than I would normally do in an alignment-based class. And then make sure that you're propping up that left buttock. You might need to do it a little bit more or possibly a little bit less this side. Try and keep it even if you can, unless you have a particular injury or limitation for whatever reason. And then again, think about when you come down, you can even put your hand on your back to make sure that the level is horizontal. And the other fist on top, or put the block back underneath your forehead. And again, now that this is a familiar pose, come into the softness, probably a little bit sooner than you did on that first side. Giving you the opportunity to take the pranayama work here a little bit further. So come back into that long cadence, each inhale and exhale, a comfortable long length. And I want you to direct your breath with a little more purpose this side. Breathe into the back of your heart and feel the spaciousness there. And that your breath not only expands that space with its gentle force, but fills it completely with warmth and love. If it helps you, visualize a color coming into your body and choose the color gold. Every inhalation brings in a warm, beautiful golden light into the back of your heart. And as you exhale, the gold stays there and even spreads a little bit more around your entire back. 2 or 3 more breaths like this. Then again, downward facing dog. So lift your head, place your hands, tuck your back toes under, pick up your back knee and step your left leg back. Push your hands forward and squeeze your legs strong. Now bring your knees down to the floor. The final pose, I want you to come into a low lunge. So with your block there as a possibility, you may well need it, put your block on the left-hand side of your mat and step your right foot forwards. Then turn the block so that it's got a wide horizontal base and put both of your hands on it. Turn your right foot a little bit more out to the right. Now you can keep your hands on the block as you relax your legs as much as you can, or bring your left hand to the floor, your right hand to the floor. You can keep your left hand on the block, or you can move the block away completely. This is where you have further options. If you want, you can bring your left elbow down onto your block. If you don't need the block, move it away and bring your elbow to the floor. But be aware of ambition here and your ego. If you find that when you do this, you move your entire body over to the left, then you need to put your hand back on the block. Give yourself support so that you can keep the pose pretty much evenly balanced down the center line of your body. You also don't want your right knee to move in towards your body too much. You want to try and keep your shin more or less straight up and down and not moving to the left or right. You have another option here to take it further and bring your other forearm down if that's comfortable for you. Some days I do, some days I don't. Now, if you want, you can move your chest a little bit more straight forwards or perhaps a little over towards the left. You do need to bear some weight here. There is quite a lot of yang going on here, but try and rest and relax as much as you can. And breathe into now whatever areas in your body need some support, whatever is holding some discomfort, I could say. Breathe that warm gold light into wherever your body feels it needs a little bit of support. Big stretches going on, some discomfort. Only about 10 more seconds left here. We're not holding too long. Keep breathing in that gold. Now, if you've got both elbows on the floor, pick up the right one, then the left. Tuck your back toes under from wherever you've come. Pick up the back knee, and again, a very brief downward facing dog. Do whatever you need to do to step back. Bring your knees back down to the floor and step your left foot forward. And again, the block is here for you to put both of your hands on. Or you could bring your right elbow down onto the block. You could bring your left hand to the floor. There are all sorts of variations of levels here. Play around with what works for you. And do turn your left toe slightly out and come into the depth of the pose that you like. Soften your shoulders, soften your jaw, your face, let your head hang. And again, the gold. Bring back the gold. Breathe in steadily into whichever area in your body needs that support. So you're not turning away from the discomfort, you're turning towards it, and you're helping your body and your mind to take it on. Unless you're in pain, then please do come out of the pose, or at least come part way out of the pose. Keep focusing on your breath. Softness being brought into your body. This golden light is opening up space. Visualize that, feel that happening in your body. And that might even come into your mind as well. Some space, some clarity. About 10 more seconds. Now bring your left hand to the floor and then your right hand. And again, final downward facing dog. Again, just like a little punctuation point here. Clearing out any tension here. If you want to move around a little bit slowly, you can pedal your heels. Or you can bring both of your heels to the left and then to the right. You can do both, like I've just done. Come back into a normal down dog. Then bring your knees to the floor and come into Shavasana. Use your blanket to put underneath the back of your head. We're going to join Shisha here, fully relaxing. Ponytails out if needed. Now a little bit more pranayama. So from here, if you want, keep your knees bent or lengthen your legs long. And bring one hand onto your heart and one hand onto your lower belly. Make sure you're warm. So grab a blanket if you need to cover yourself. Come back to being aware of your breathing. Put length into your breath, each inhale and exhale. And make sure that each inhale and exhale are about the same duration in time. And feel the breath coming in to your body, not only through your nose and down the back of your throat and into your lungs, but also into your hands. Breathe into the lower hand, the hand on top of the lower belly. And breathe back that gold light. And imagine that all that is below that hand, down to the spine underneath it, is bathed in a beautiful golden loving light. Each inhale fills up that space with warmth and love. Now keep all of that warmth and love below that lower hand, and then bring your attention to all that dwells below the upper hand. Each inhalation is now filling up your upper torso. And as you exhale, let that golden light spread throughout your heart, your lungs, and all around your shoulders, your upper arms, the sides of your body, the back of your body. And as you continue lying here for a few more breaths under my guidance, let the golden light spread throughout your entire body. Bathe in its love. Now let that golden light assimilate into your body with kindness and support, all that you need, all that you particularly need at the moment. And come into Shavasana, so bring your arms down by your sides. Let your fingers curl. Let your body be held. As we're quiet here for another minute or so, rest. Please feel free to stay here longer. Just reach around and press the pause button. Or coming out with me now, bend your knees one leg at a time and roll onto your right side, the side of yang, the side of action and purpose. Then press down with your left hand and come up to sit, cross-legged. Close your eyes and sit tall. Bring your hands into your heart. Lower your chin and release your hands and bring them onto your legs. Then lift your chin and open your eyes. Namaste. Thank you for joining me. If you're enjoying these classes, please do look at the class description here on the right. You see the little tiny arrows there. And join me on Patreon. Have a look at all the details there. I give you back so much more as you support me. And it's a wonderful group that we have here now, a lovely growing group in Patreon. So do have a look at that. And let me know if you have any questions in the comments box below. And please do like this class and subscribe. Thank you and take care.